Welkom iedereen bij onze 30ste aflevering van Confianz after hours. Tevens is dit de laatste aflevering van ons eerste seizoen. Vandaag een speciale aflevering. We maken van de gelegenheid gebruik om ons team kort eens voor te stellen. Dag Glenn, kan je voor de luisteraars die misschien voor de eerste keer een aflevering beluisteren nog eens samenvatten wat wij juist doen?
Dag An-Sofie. Wel, Confianz is een juridisch kantoor gespecialiseerd in de begeleiding van vastgoedtransacties in Spanje. En we helpen dus met juridische bijstand en ook belangenbehartiging bij de aankoop, verkoop van vastgoed in Spanje. Maar ook staan we klanten bij met nalatenschappen en schenkingen. En eigenlijk alle diensten daar rond, bijvoorbeeld belastingaangiftes, verhuurlicenties, immigratie enzovoort. Wij zijn gevestigd in België en in Spanje. En we hebben ook in Spanje onze eigen advocaten in dienst.
Oké, en waarom ben je gestart met Confianz?
Ik ben Confianz gestart in 2017. Ik werkte destijds voor een lokaal advocatenkantoor in Alicante. Maar ik merkte al snel dat het koopproces en eigenlijk vastgoedtransacties in het algemeen in Spanje helemaal niet transparant verliepen. De Spaanse vastgoedmarkt was toen en is eigenlijk vandaag nog steeds zeer beperkt gereguleerd. En daardoor was elke aankoop best onzeker. Onzeker in de zin dat je op voorhand eigenlijk niet weet wat je koopt. Dus uiteraard, je ziet het huis of het appartement of de bungalow, maar de juridische situatie daarachter zie je meestal niet, of weet je niet op voorhand. En daardoor is elke aankoop best onzeker. Dus je weet niet altijd wat je koopt en er kan dan wel eens iets misgaan, zeker als je niet goed geïnformeerd bent. Bovendien werd er toen ook geen rekening gehouden met de Belgische juridische en fiscale aspecten bij een vastgoedaankoop. Hoe kan je best een aankoop structureren? Met welke zaken moet je rekening houden, ook met successie enzovoort. En om die reden ben ik eigenlijk gestart met Confianz in 2017. Trouwens, online vond je toen nauwelijks duidelijke informatie. Dus om die reden ben ik ook gestart met blogartikels te schrijven. Ondertussen zijn er nu meer dan 300, als ik me niet vergis. Zijn er ook een aantal video's, een FAQ en sinds dit jaar uiteraard de podcast-aflevering om mensen zo goed als mogelijk te kunnen informeren voorafgaandelijk aan hun aankoop. Dus waarom ben ik gestart met Confianz? Ik wou er eigenlijk voor zorgen, of het doel van Confianz is dat mensen veilig en op een correcte manier volledig geïnformeerd een woning kunnen kopen. Het gaat toch over veel geld altijd. En dus dat te doen door mensen correct te informeren en hun belangen te behartigen tijdens het proces. Nu gaandeweg is ook ons team gegroeid. In 2018 leerde ik mijn huidige vennoot Javier kennen. Hij werkte toen tevens alleen. En dankzij onze samenwerking zijn we eigenlijk in staat geweest om heel Spanje te kunnen ondersteunen. Dus om vastgoedtransacties in heel Spanje te kunnen begeleiden. Daarvoor was het enkel Alicante, maar dankzij die samenwerking zijn we er dan in geslaagd om naar het hele Spanje te kunnen bedienen. En dan is geleidelijk aan van nature een beetje geëvolueerd naar een volledig partnership.
Oké. Javier is hier vandaag ook aanwezig. Hij spreekt geen Nederlands, dus we zullen eventjes verder gaan in het Spaans. Ik bedoel in het Engels. Welkom, Javier. Great to have you with us. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Javier, you've been a conveyancing lawyer for more than 20 years, specializing in Spanish real estate law. Buying a home in Spain is a dream for many, but the legal system can be very different from what people are used to in their own country. What would you say is the biggest misconception clients have when they first come to you?
Well, the main misconception that I detect is the role of the notary. The role of the notary in Belgium is different to the one Spanish notary has on the property purchase transaction. You see, there's a lot of involvement on the side of the Belgian notary in the transaction, but Spanish notary doesn't do that much other than witnessing the transaction has taken place. He doesn't do any due diligence on the property, not checking more than basic stuff related to basic debts that they may eventually affect into the property. And that is why it's so important our role in this sort of transaction to ensure that there is not any hidden problems that may be a bad surprise for the client in the future.
In previous episodes, we've talked about the steps involved in buying property in Spain, but the final stage, the moment the keys are handed over, is something truly special. Javier, what does it mean to you personally to help someone successfully complete the purchase of their Spanish home?
Well, it's a big satisfaction for us because thankfully you can work in different law areas, but the one that we are involved is very connected to one of the main dreams that most of our clients have, which is buying a property abroad, buying a property in Spain. So the lucky people can buy many, and that's not a special for most of the clients. This is a very special decision. It's the result of many years of effort, savings, struggle, and being part of that is so special for us. We're contributing to people achieving their dreams, and that's one of the most positive things that we have in this business.
Okay, thank you. Of course, you're not working alone. My colleague Miriam is also a Spanish lawyer and often attends completions. Completion refers to signing the deed at a notary. Miriam, can you walk us through what happens during that appointment?
Well, firstly, it will depend if clients will attend in-person completions or we go by power of attorney. In case we go by power of attorney, it's usually quicker because we go straight to the point, go to the notary, review the documents, and sign with the notary. But in case clients coming with us in person, it's usually a stressful moment for them because notary here are usually more crowded and with a lot of noise everywhere. But what we do usually is look for our rooms and we can sit together and explain the full deed in details to them so they can feel more relaxed. Also, all documentation is sent previously to the notary so they can have all the full documentation and the day of completion runs smoothly. We review the deed with clients, resolve any queries they may have, and finally wait for the notary person to arrive so we can all sign. Each notary has their own methods and explaining things, but usually they read the deed to the clients, to the other party, and explain the most important parts of the deed, and then we all can sign and then go together to collect the keys.
How long does it take?
It will depend on the notary because, like I said, it's usually crowded, but a minimum 1 hour if we go with clients and half an hour if we go a power of the time, but at least 1 hour. If you have an appointment at 10 o'clock, you will be there at 10 o'clock. So you review all the documents, wait for the other party, wait for the notary. So at least 1 hour.
And what about discussions? What happens then?
Sometimes with second-hand property, especially, we have some discussions for supplies, maybe for furniture, like you have said. We try to, when we go to the notary, it's already solved, but in some cases we cannot preview some things. But we discuss with the other party. We always try to reach an agreement that it's is in favor of our client and also for the vendor party, for example. And usually we always look for an agreement, and usually until today everything goes okay and reach an agreement.
Possible that there are still discussions ongoing and the draft has to be adjusted while you're at the notary.
Yeah, so, especially with second-hand properties.
It's exceptional. It's something that is not the rule. The rule is that the work has been done prior to going to the notary, and everything runs smooth. In some exceptional situations, you have to be prepared for discussing the last minute aspect of the transaction. And one of the things that we require for that is being flexible, open-minded, to ensure that we can reach an agreement to succeed the transaction properly, which is something that we always do. But we try to avoid those scenarios and ensure that the discussion has taken place before going to the notary.
Before the notary appointment, there's a lot of work happening behind the scenes. That's where Jessica comes in. She now has Spanish nationality, but listeners may notice she's originally from the UK. Jessica, as a legal advisor, when we receive a new case, whether it's a purchase or a sale, what are the first things that need to be done?
Yeah, hi An-Sofie. Thanks for having me here. So first of all, when we receive an instruction by the client, whether it's a purchase, sale or inheritance case, the first thing that we need to do is check which documents do we already have. Where my job resides is that I'm the main person who communicates first, whether that be the developer, the agent, the vendor. all sorts of people of whom we may need contact with, purchase in certain cases, and we review the documents. Why is it important that we review the documents? Because the lawyer who would be assigned to the case, that might either be my colleagues Javier or Miriam, or the colleagues that we have here working on cases, so that they have everything prepared for when we sign the private purchase contract, which we typically refer to as PPC, and to draft the report. Because particularly we understand with building clients, Dutch clients, if you're not accustomed to working with documents, we can understand that sometimes it can be really complicated to understand them. So where my job is to review that everything is in place, and then so that when the lawyers can do the reports and that sort of thing, everything is in place and we can explain everything, because one of our main goals is that there's pure transparency and that the clients are fully aware of what they're purchasing, understanding risks, understanding what their property is, so that indeed that their dream home can be indeed their dream home and there is no hidden and unexpected surprises.
Okay, thank you. And finally, once the completion is done, there are still several administrative hurdles to clear. This is Sandra's responsibility. Sandra is originally from Germany and coordinates all post-completion tasks. Sandra, can you tell us a bit more about what that involves?
Hi, An-Sofie. Hi, Glenn. Well, post-completion in Spain involves a lot of things. First of all, the property has to be registered at the land registry. In order to do so, the new owners will be required to fill in tax forms and pay taxes and submit everything to the authorities. It's where we come in and do this for our clients. Depending on the type of operation the buyer has to pay, or a stamp duty in off-plan properties, it's 1 or 1.5% of the purchase price, or when it's a second-hand property, transfer tax has to be paid. This tax varies between 8 and 10% depending on in which region the property was bought. And because we have different rules in different regions here in Spain. Well, after paying the taxes, it will be necessary to register the title deeds at the land registry, which this process can take between 1 and 6 months, depending on where the property was bought and how busy the land registries are. But after signing the deed, also other important steps must be done, as for example, to register the new owners with a community of owners, if there is one, and also place standing orders for the community fees. Also, the new owners will have to pay local taxes, such as council tax and rubbish tax. These taxes are normally paid once a year, and the best is to place standing orders to ensure that payments are done correctly every year, as these taxes come with surcharges when they are not paid on time. It is also important to arrange the connections of the utilities, such as water and electricity, and in some cases also gas. And in the case of second-hand properties, the changeover of the utility contracts have to be done into the name of the new owners, of course. Also, in off-plan transactions, if you are not planning to come during the days before completion or a few days after, it is advisable to appoint somebody to prepare the snagging list of the property. So we can ask the developer to solve any physical damage at the property if there is one.
So you keep busy after completion?
Yeah. It can, but post-completion is quite an extensive job, and it can take up to 2 years in some cases until everything is finally done.
And Sandra, to illustrate just how bureaucratic things can be, could you explain to us how easy it is to arrange something as simple as a water contract, for example?
Well, a water contract can be a challenge depending on whether it's an off-plan property. So in a lot of cases, the developer, they still don't have all the paperwork in place. So we cannot make a water contract. So we have to wait for the developer to get everything in order. And in some places, in some cases, it can take up to 2 years. So we finally can make a contract. New owner, they will have water from the construction side from the developer. But in order to get their own water contract, it can take up to 2 years in some cases. And changeover of name can also be a challenge, because not every water company does have this online system, so you can do it online. In some cases, they still work with postal service, so they would not send a water contract via email, or you cannot get it online. They will send it by post, or you have to go there in person. So this can be very challenging.
there's a monopoly for the water supply in each location. So there is one company providing water supply in one city, and the next city is another water company. And they all have their own rules, their own protocols of bureaucracy, and it's sometimes a bit challenging. And therefore, this is why it's so important to have somebody that have the knowledge to face this challenging situation and ensure they succeed when they follow all the process. We always try to make this as smooth as possible and provide clients as clear information as possible once the process has been started and of course completed.
An-Sofie, de luisteraars horen jou natuurlijk ook op de podcast. Wat is eigenlijk jouw rol binnen de organisatie? Hè? Hoe help jij onze klanten? Misschien kan jij de luisteraars daar iets over vertellen.
Ja, klopt. Goh, mijn rol binnen de organisatie, ik ben dossierbeheerder bij Confianz. En dat houdt eigenlijk in dat ik ervoor zorg dat het dossier toch administratief in orde is. Denk dan aan het verzamelen van allerlei documenten. Als klanten vragen hebben, kunnen ze telefonisch met mij contact opnemen. Ik ben hun eerste aanspreekpunt. Ik heb contact met notarissen voor volmachten te ondertekenen, voor afspraken in te plannen. En het grootste deel van mijn job, dat heeft eigenlijk betrekking op de post-completion. Dus wanneer dat de akte ondertekend is, dan begint het eigenlijk voor mij. Dat wil dan zeggen, er dienen nog een aantal zaken in orde gebracht te worden dan uiteraard. Denk dan aan contracten voor water en elektriciteit, eventueel de aanvraag van verhuurlicenties. Ik volg ook de registratie van de eigendomsakten op. Zodra dat allemaal gebeurd is, dan kunnen we het dossier proper afsluiten voor onze klanten.
Dat is juist. Hè. Jij bent het eerste aanspreekpunt van onze klanten. En jij zorgt ervoor dat het dossier administratief klaar is om op basis waar wij dan de juristen en advocaten ons werk kunnen doen en de adviezen kunnen maken.
Beste luisteraars, jullie hebben nu ook kennis gemaakt met het team achter Confianz. Daarmee ronden we ons eerste seizoen mooi af. Bedankt om elke week af te stemmen op de Confianz After Hours podcast. We hopen dat we jullie de voorbije afleveringen waardevolle inzichten hebben kunnen meegeven. Heb je nog vragen? Stuur ons gerust een bericht via info@confianz.be. Vandaag is het 19 december, dus we wensen jullie alvast een zalig kerstfeest en een gelukkig nieuwjaar. Bedankt voor het luisteren en graag tot volgend seizoen.